Get the advice. I mean, you're going to spend $1 million on something and you don't get the advice on what structure to put it in. And I always ask the question, why didn't you come and see me? Like, you're spending $1 million, spend $1,000 on advice. The structure is the key, because you make the wrong decision, it's very expensive to untangle that decision.
Correct. Yeah.
So get the advice, work out the structure, the rest is easy.
Today's podcast is someone who's not afraid to challenge the status quo in accounting, business, and property investment. Peter Ristevski is the CEO of Investment Plus Accounting Group, named Australia's Best Accountant in 2024, and known as the 1% Accountant, a Forbes trusted advisor who helps clients legally minimise their tax and protect their assets in ways most accountants wouldn't even consider. With more than 20 years' experience across accounting, finance, and property, Peter has built a reputation as a disruptor, creating asset protection structures and tax strategies that no other firm in Australia offers. He's been featured in the Australian Financial Review, Channel 9 News, and Channel 7's Industry Leaders, and runs offices not just in Sydney and Adelaide, but also Dubai, Hong Kong, and New Zealand, helping clients tap into strategies used by global giants like Google and Apple. Today, we're going to dig into how investors can keep more of their money, grow wealth faster, and stay 100% compliant while doing it. Peter, welcome to the Invest Smarter, Grow Faster podcast.
Thank you for the invitation.
Pleasure, mate. It's good to have you on. We've crossed paths a little bit in a couple of groups we're in, but it's good to finally meet you face to face, and love to get deep into your brain and get some great advice for our listeners around the financial side. But where we normally start, just love to get a bit about. Everyone likes to learn a little bit about your background and maybe take us to childhood, bring us through education and maybe your business side of it, and then where we are today.
Yeah, so obviously born in Australia through Macedonian parents. They came out separately and met here, funny enough.
Okay.
In the 60s they came out. And funny enough, I'm just going to digress a little bit. One of my other roles is I just got elected to local government at Liverpool Council.
Yeah.
And I've been watching their citizenship ceremonies, because one of our roles is we conduct the ceremonies. And I looked at them and I asked my parents, I said, when you guys went for your citizenship, did you have 3 flags? Did you have an Aboriginal welcome to country? And they said, no. I said, well, this is how it is now. And my dad's now the biggest Aussie.
Yeah.
How can they do that?
It's one of the 3 flags we have now.
So Australia's got 3 flags now,
yes.
which I don't understand myself. Aboriginal flag, Torres Strait Islander, and the Australian flag.
Oh, the Torres Strait, right.
So I know we've digressed, but
it's
just it was very interesting that how it's changed. Has it changed for the better or not? And my old man thinks it hasn't, because we're not pulling in the same direction.
Even a demographic change, right? Where your dad moved into Liverpool and those areas.
Correct.
A lot of people coming from those sort of areas.
Yes.
Croatia.
Yes.
A lot of those war-torn countries,
Correct.
I guess you'd say.
Yes.
And now
communist countries.
Now you're probably seeing more Indian subcontinent in your area,
So Liverpool, where I'm on local government, is majority is Indian.
All right, majority.
Fiji and Indian, funny enough, which I didn't know. 50% of Fiji is Indians. 50% is Indigenous Fijians. So I was not aware of that. And the other, I think, number 2 is Arabic. So it used to be the other way around. Greeks, Macedonians, Serbians are still up there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't born in Liverpool. I was born in Newtown.
Oh, okay.
So the migrants back then, when my father and mother moved out, it was all inner city where the work was. And then in 1980, they decided to move out to Chipping Norton, which is Liverpool.
Yep.
So my base is out there. My family, my friends, my school friends. I have an office there as well. So I've did my schooling there.
Yep.
Public school. It was a great school too, Moorebank High. I was a bit of an entrepreneur back then. I've got a funny story for you. I think I was in year 9. I started a mail order business.
Right.
And I was making, I'm not kidding you, probably my dad was making back then $200 a week, and I was pulling in from this mail order business probably $3,000 a week.
Wowzers.
So my dad used to say, what the hell is going on? I'm digging holes all day for $200 a week and you got $3,000. So that business, having an entrepreneurial mind, I then invested into the stock market. Funny enough, the 87 crash.
Yes.
That's when it was terrible. So I had to, I remember sitting in class and the crash was happening. All I wanted to do was go to the office, ring my broker to dump some stock. So I had to put my hand up in class and the teacher would say, yes.
You had a broker in high school? Oh.
And my teacher would say, how can I help you? I've got to go to the office to ring my broker to dump these stocks. So she's like, but I did do that. And I remember sitting in the principal's office ringing up and he goes, school is not a place for you to conduct your business. So I was like the Ferris Bueller of high school.
Yeah, right.
Remember that movie?
Yeah, one of my favourites.
Yeah, exactly. So I was very entrepreneurial back then and I was always thinking, what can I get into? Decided to get into accounting, which you're at the center of everything.
Yep.
Tax, insolvency, structures, asset protection, you name it, we're at the center. Everything gravitates around us. So,
yep.
And that's pretty much why I got into the accounting degree. Did it at Western Sydney at the Westmead campus back then, but
yes.
Now it's a Parramatta campus. Did my CPA, which is equivalent to a master's. Funny enough, I used to work for Mark Burris's firm, BDV, they were called, Burris Dowd Vince, one of my second firms that I worked for. Till about 25, I just couldn't work for anyone else and decided to buy into a small practice and then just propelled it.
At 25?
25,
yeah. Right.
Yeah, so I just was that kind of character. I just couldn't work for anyone else.
Yeah.
I struggled with it. But yeah, we've come a long way. I've been in business now 27 years. You wonder to yourself, where is that 27 years gone?
Same company, same partners?
No, I bought them out.
Yep.
Now I'm a sole partner,
yep.
which I prefer. It means you can make decisions quickly. They were 15 years senior to me.
Yeah.
I was with them for about 8 years and it's very hard. Look, I was young and aggressive. I was doing the hours. They were happy to leave at 5 o'clock and
the family, I don't know, kids or whatever they were doing. Yeah.
And I was splitting the profits 3 ways and I was bringing in 50% of the fees. And finally I thought, you know what, I have to pull the Band-Aid off. So here we are.
Wow. Long journey down through.
Correct.
And so you're called or known as the 1% accountant.
Correct.
Tell me about that. Where does that come from?
You know what? I don't honestly. I don't know what came into my mind, but you hear a lot of things as the top 1%, the rich 1%. And I remember Ed Chan, who bought into my practice. Ed Chan was more of a silent partner, one of the greatest accounting business minds. Now, thing is with accountants, right? They run accounting firms, but they don't see their own business as a business.
No.
So they are terrible business people when it comes to their own practice.
Yeah.
Ed's thinking was, this is a business. We need to be returning a 25% return on average and always looking at ways to improve the business. Now, Ed said, look, there's 10,000 accounting firms in Australia. You need to stand out. How are you going to stand out? Everyone does the compliance. Otherwise, you're going to have to compete on price. So we decided to play in the property space, which was a space that every Australian wants to dabble in.
Yep.
And most of the time with negative gearing, we've got that luxury in Australia, which not many countries allow, even though there's a lot of debate about negative gearing. But I believe it will never be gone. They tried to do that with the election a few years ago.
Yes.
But they just didn't understand who the people are that play in that space.
Yep.
It's not your high net worth individuals. It's your mums and dads, your teachers, your policemen who pay a lot of tax on their overtime. And they're thinking, how do I get more after tax dollars? So they invest in property. So these are traditional Labor voters. So when the Labor Party said this is going to be our agenda, they got wiped out.
It raised its head a little bit early this year, didn't it? And that got squashed very quickly just to make sure no one, because that didn't really fly very well for them last time they tried that.
No, they didn't. And, there was, the Liberal Party did make some concessions about not being able to claim the travel to your rental property, and you can't claim depreciation on the fixtures and fittings unless you were the one that originated those. But the 1% came from the fact that we need to differentiate ourselves. And let's be honest, most accountants are boring. Right? I go to an accounting conference and I hate it with a passion. It's boring. It's all small talk. I think if you look at the movies, it's always a lawyer that has a Ferrari gets the girl, right?
Correct. Yeah, the nice office.
Exactly. And the only sexy accountant is the Accountant, the movie with Ben Affleck.
Yes, of course. Right? Very different.
Very different.
Had to reach the top of the tree there.
But it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
So my theme was to make accounting interesting. Straight talk, say it the way it is, be a bit more aggressive because accountants are very conservative in their thinking.
I think it comes a lot about legislation, right? It's very grey and it's very hard to say yes or no.
Correct.
So
but look, sometimes if you back your abilities in your structures, because it's a matter of interpretation.
Correct.
And our structures are pretty much, I think, watertight. They have been tested and they have withheld the test.
Yeah.
And I'll go into some other byproducts of some of our structures as well. But that was the whole thinking of the 1% accountant. How do I differentiate myself from the 10,000 accounting firms? And what do people want from their accountant? Pretty much maximize my after-tax dollars.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, right? We can beat around the bush and whatnot, but that's what most people want. Unfortunately, in Australia, our banks do not lend unless you've got collateral, unlike America. So the more tax you can save through legalised structures, the more you're going to reinvest in your business. And that's pretty much what we're pushing.
That's really interesting because obviously in my business and field, we're talking to investors all the time and everyone's after the hot spot or where to buy and the great deal. But no one ever talks about structures and the best way to put things together. What sort of advice would you have around that to making sure start there first before you start talking about the property deal?
Yeah, well, definitely in terms of property, you've got to know what name. So on the contract, as you know, what name do I put it in? Most people just put in their own name or husband and wife. And that's not always right. As you know, as an accountant, we don't just think of income taxes. There's things called a land tax. Now, if you put it into a trust structure in New South Wales, a family trust or a discretionary trust, you miss out on the threshold. So effectively, you're paying $10,000 a year unnecessarily. There are other ways to buy property, and most people worry about how do I protect that asset. We don't necessarily need to put into a family trust to protect that asset. We've got a structure called an equity bank trust. Even though it's in your name, I can build a fence around that structure as long as we pass the 4-year rule, because there's new insolvency laws now.
Yeah.
If you do something that's not at arm's length, they can try and dismantle it within 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's where the 4-year rule comes in.
Right.
However, even before that, if you're solvent and you never had any pressure from creditors, we can still achieve that even though you haven't passed the 4-year rule because at that particular time, there was no prima facie evidence to say that you were insolvent, nor did you do this structure to defeat your creditors.
Yeah.
So there's case law around that as well. Funny enough, it also works in divorce situations as a byproduct. If you remember penicillin, how it was discovered? By accident.
Yep.
All our structure has been discovered by accident.
Right.
So one client of mine who we developed this structure for, the only caveat I will add on that is you have to do it before you get married.
Right.
So you can't do it during marriage.
Okay.
They'll just tear it apart. But because we built this structure for him before he was married and he went into the marriage with this structure in place, his partner or wife tried to penetrate the fence, couldn't penetrate the fence. So our structure protected that asset from the family law agreement.
Right. You're talking about at separation.
Correct, at divorce.
Yeah, right.
So he went into this marriage with his asset, with a fence, and then he purchased other assets during the marriage, obviously, and those assets then became part of the matrimonial assets and he was happy to split them up.
Yeah.
But we had no intention. We didn't even know this structure was going to work in that instance, and it did.
Yeah, because we see it a lot with parents trying to help their kids, which is quite often the bank of mum and dad is something talked about a lot now, that terminology. And it's a great thing, right? Parents helping their kids now, not waiting till they die and then get an inheritance, which is obviously another big topic in our industry, particularly about the inheritance. And you'd see that a lot on how to with dissolving those trusts as well, and how the money gets split. But do you see that being an area that an accountant can really assist with on ensuring that people think about these things ahead? So you want to help your daughter or your son get into property, but they're normally. I had one the other day, and he wanted to buy it for his daughter's getting married, a wedding gift. What a wonderful wedding gift! Now, no toasters, we'll buy you a house, but he had no thought around the structure, and I can't give any advice.
Correct.
I've said something you should think about. Speak to an accountant.
Yes.
And he came back and actually said it almost caused the wedding to be called off.
Oh.
So because they were an ethnic background.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And the family got very upset. Thought, how dare you say we would do anything to you? Okay. In the end, the wedding went ahead, and they did sign some form of trust. Just to ensure there was some protection for his family's contribution to that house.
Exactly. Look, that is right. Without sounding sexist, but normally it's the other way around. It's the guy you got to protect 9 times out of 10. However, I've seen successful women now, and I still can't get my head around how the male spouse then tries to target her assets. I mean, I'm old school. Man is a man. You open the door. You pay. You pay the meals.
Times are changing.
Times are changing. I can't get my head around it. But either way, you do need to have some sort of agreement. But I'm not noticing a lot of people doing that because of the stamp duty, capital gains issues that it will trigger.
Correct.
And it's not. It doesn't make sense from a tax perspective to even if you might transfer it to your daughter or whatnot for $1. You still got to put the valuation on there. So it's going to trigger stamp duty for them, and it's going to trigger capital gains for you. They're going to lose a lot of money on doing that. What we are pushing is testamentary trusts.
Yeah.
The reason I'm a big fan of that, and I had a real life example. I had this Macedonian couple, only child, they had a son. They passed away. They left him $10 million worth of assets, right? Now, I was always talking to the family, do not do a will. It's a waste of space. Let's do a testamentary trust. Testamentary trust. Fortunately, they didn't do it. They left the traditional way, goes to the son under the will.
Mm-hmm.
He gets divorced several years later. She takes 80% of that wealth. His mum and dad would be rolling in their grave.
Yeah.
It broke my heart, to be honest with you. The testamentary trust avoids that. And even the family law courts can't penetrate it.
Really? So
It's
different
the
to the
only structure.
bloodline trust, which is
That's a discretionary trust, right?
discretionary, yes.
So if you anything you create during the marriage, like a trust, it's going to be penetrated by the law courts.
Yeah.
But the testamentary trust is created by someone that's outside the marriage. It's their last will and testament where their assets get transferred into a testamentary trust. And, it might have things like you can't sell the assets, you can live off the rent or whatnot. It's controlling from the grave. However, as long as the assets are in there, even if you go bankrupt, you can't lose them, you go for a divorce, they can't penetrate that.
Okay.
So that is the best structure to do in terms of, you can help your kids. I mean, how much are you going to help them? You're going to give them $100,000 for a deposit or
Correct.
whatnot.
Yeah.
The smart thing to do is a loan agreement with no interest and whatnot, no repayment terms. But if you get divorced, I want that money with interest and whatnot.
Yep.
So you can do these things. And that's a smart thing to do because you're protecting your child.
Yep.
You don't know how the marriage is going to work out. But ultimately, if it doesn't work out, you've protected your position. And at the same time, you can help them on their next journey.
That's very interesting. I mean, a lot of things that we don't know what we don't know, right?
Correct.
But a lot of people don't ask questions. So, in my industry, a lot of people they listen to, I always call barbecue talk. At a barbecue, the favorite topic is property, investing, and I normally walk away from those conversations. It's the last thing I want to talk about because everyone knows more than I do.
Correct.
And I'm sure you're the same in finance and accounting. But, they're the sort of topics that if we don't ask those questions, and that's why now, we talk about strategy and building that up as opposed to don't even want to talk about property in the initial discussions because what is it we're trying to achieve here?
Exactly.
Is it retirement? Is it, some people about, I want to buy enough properties to give one to my kids someday. Is it legacy building? So these are the sort of questions that people should answer and think about.
100%. I mean, look, it's a dynamic conversation. So if we have a discussion today, on your next purchase, it might be completely different.
Yeah.
So the conversations I have with the clients are always, at the moment, this is the structure. If you buy something in 12 months, don't assume that it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
Come and see me again and we'll have that discussion. You know, as I've mentioned before, land tax is a fact, especially in New South Wales.
Yep.
It's not so much a factor anywhere else in Australia where you don't get the threshold.
Yeah.
But in Queensland, you do get a
Correct.
you pay, but it's only a small amount. You can get away with it, right?
Yeah.
I call it insurance, protecting of assets. I've got a property in Queensland in a trust and I pay that extra land tax. It's no big deal. But when you're paying 10, 11 grand per year, it's a big hit.
It hurts, yeah.
So there are ways to minimise it. You've got to look at it. Do we put one in the husband's name? And then they think, oh, what if she leaves me? It doesn't matter. This is during your marriage. Whether it's in your name or her name, it still gets put onto the table.
That's probably the most common fallacy I see as well, because obviously
true.
we're always saying, well, what contract may you put on this property we're about to buy for you?
Exactly.
And there's always a little bit of fidgeting in the chair, you know, between the husband and wife. Exactly. What do you mean it's just in your name or my name or both?
But I'm upfront with them. I say to them, look, let me put this aside. In the divorce courts, it doesn't matter whose name it is. If it's all your assets are in your wife's name, you are still, it's all part of the kitty that gets divvied up.
What about, I see often their accountant is coming to us and say this is what we wanted in, you know, put it 80% in Peter's name and 20% in Karen's name. What is that something that you see often, or do you?
I'm not a big fan of that because land tax doesn't work like that as well, right? So it does nothing for your land tax threshold.
Yeah.
In terms of tax, it probably does help, but I think there are other ways to structure it. I'm a big fan of buy one property, investment property in the husband's name, second one in the wife's name.
Yeah.
Now we've got taken advantage of 2 land tax thresholds. It's a saving there of, 20 grand plus a year.
You're talking if we're buying in New South Wales.
Yeah, correct. And most people do. Most of my clients are buying, 80% are buying in New South Wales.
Okay.
Even though personally I think Brisbane's a better market.
Yeah. Where we're the other way around, we don't buy a lot in New South Wales because of the price point.
Correct.
So we don't have investors with, $1.5 million. So
exactly.
We're buying mainly, and everyone's, that's a big change in our business over 8 years, is people having the mindset to buy borderless, as we call it.
100%. And it is a better way to do things. Sydney's not always the best market. It's always, as you know.
It's also going back to the word strategy and budgets, right?
Yes,
so
that's right.
What's it going to
mean? You know more about it than I would, but in terms of asset stuff and in terms of, you've got to factor in out of the husband and wife who's in business, what's the best way to protect it, land tax, tax positions. Even though we might buy it into the wife's name, in terms of maximising it for the husband, we can do on-loan agreements as well, which the bank doesn't need to know about. But that can also help from a negative gearing point of view. So ultimately, we can say that the husband's contributing to the repayments. Because as you know, in rental properties, it's always, you're not getting enough rent compared to
the interest rates today. Maybe when they were back at 2% a few years back. Yeah,
exactly. So if the wife's, it's in her name, she's on a lower tax bracket and the husband's on a higher tax bracket, we can do an on-loan agreement as long as he's making the repayments.
Right.
And we can show those transactions. And it all flows through and all makes sense. So there's other ways to skin a cat, as they say. But it's a matter of sitting down like this and mapping it out.
Yep. And talking long term as well.
Exactly.
Not just the
generational
that
wealth.
one. Yeah.
If you want to create generational wealth, and a lot of my clients are not selling assets; they're borrowing against it.
Yep.
As you know, their assets have appreciated.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, if I sell it, but I need another 100 grand, you know what? I'll just borrow against the property, and that's what they're doing.
Yep.
They're not triggering any capital gains tax. They're not triggering, stamp duty if they want to buy another property. They're basically borrowing against their assets that are appreciated, and then just going on a holiday, building the renovations, buying a second or third or fifth property,
right?
Using that as a deposit.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Very, very rarely are they selling. They would only sell if it's not performing.
Yeah.
It's not achieving.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I said, I'm smiling. Everything you're saying then comes back to the questions I get every single day, and because I want to buy it and I'll probably sell it in a few years. Why is that? I don't know.
Exactly.
Someone mentioned at the barbecue that once you make money, you should sell it. And you need to pay all those extra costs that you just said.
once you sit down with them and you tell them this is your capital gains tax, they decide, well, actually, I don't want to sell now.
Yeah.
When they see that chunk of money that you put on that table, it's like burning that money.
Yep.
And you got to pay the agent as well. So it's money that most people don't want to burn that kind of coin.
Or, we pull into a cash flow full analysis at 10 years and showing those exit strategies. And you're right. Then they're like, oh, okay, well, no, maybe we'll just hold it and see what happens down.
There's no
down
reason to sell property. Keep it, borrow against it.
Yeah.
Get into another one. Or if you have, that's pretty much your savings, right? If you have savings, you're going to be paying money on the interest. And the inflation factor means you're going backwards. So you've also got regional facilities, lines of credits, utilize them. Your house is your bank type of thing.
So you talk about, another buzzword, the negative gearing buzzword. What's your thought on that? A lot of people say, negative gearing, I'm buying house and land packages for the tax benefits, the negative gearing benefits of doing that, depreciation benefits, but yet they're only paying maybe 30% tax. But that's what they were told when they went to that land sales agent or something like that, as opposed to someone who's looking only buy positive geared properties. So they're buying normally in regional towns, higher risk factors, potentially lower growth opportunities, but they need to keep positive geared properties. And we're seeing the advent of rooming homes, co-living, all the ones you've heard, all NDIS.
Yes.
Huge risk in some of those.
Exactly.
What are you seeing out there with your client base?
Look, I always say to someone, don't buy a property for the tax benefits. Exactly. That's a byproduct.
Yep.
Right? Ultimately, you go in there for whatever reason personally, I love property for the growth, capital growth. That's really where you make your money.
Yep.
Right? Rental income is great, but statistics have shown capital growth outweighs it.
If you want to grow a portfolio, it's pretty hard to do it any other way.
Exactly. And you want to be able to then tap into it, the growth, borrow against it for another property.
Yep.
But from a tax point of view, look, never make that decision if this is going to give you a better tax return than that property, but ultimately this property is going to be better for you in terms of growth or whatnot, you choose that one.
Yeah.
The tax benefit is a byproduct. And we can find ways to make it work.
Yeah.
But never go into that aspect for the purpose, because you don't get a dollar for dollar.
Correct.
That's what they don't realize.
No, I think that's probably the furphy that people don't quite realize.
Exactly. And I get a lot of questions.
Benefits.
Yeah. I mean, look, depreciation's good.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it's a non-cash item that you're getting, and that's like money for jam, right?
Yeah. On particular assets. So,
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. But you've got to look at the investment first. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You've got to look at the return, the capital growth. Is it what you want? The tax question is a byproduct of that.
Yeah.
And the structure helps. Things like structures can help you in that aspect.
Yeah. No, very, very true. Search Party Property, nominated by REB as Australia's best buyer's agency and buyer's agent for 2025. Looking for your dream family home, a prime commercial property, or a smart investment? We've got you covered. Unlike others, we don't rely on selling agents or property managers. We have boots on the ground in key investment cities across Australia. Powered by data-driven insights, we give you the edge to secure the best deals. Ready to invest smarter and grow faster? Contact Search Party Property today for a complimentary discovery call. Now, I noticed you've got some international businesses as well, and you've talked about tax strategies and offshore strategies. Any thoughts around that? But, right now, what am I hearing in our sort of closed property? A lot of agents coming from Dubai and tax benefits and buy in Dubai and get a golden visa and all these different things.
Exactly.
What are you seeing with all that?
Look, I've got an office in New Zealand, mainly because I have a lot of clients doing business in New Zealand. It's very complicated. Right. Even though we've got a tax agreement with New Zealand, especially when you're employing staff, it gets very complicated. But New Zealand, from a property perspective, is great. No land tax, no capital gains tax, no stamp duty.
Yeah.
Right.
Going through a bit of a tough time right now, but that's probably a good time if you're cashed up to buy.
Correct. And if you do move to New Zealand and become a resident and a citizen, for the first 4 years, any income that you earn around the world is tax-free. So you could have your rental properties in Australia bringing in $1 million a year. tax-free for 4 years on foreign earnings.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, you pay your tax rates.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of benefits. Dubai, great way to do business. You can, I've got an office in Dubai. In terms of property over there, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of apartments. The only thing I like about their apartments is the same apartment in Sydney, you can build for half the price there.
Yeah.
Because of the labour costs are lower, less red tape and whatnot. If you were going to buy something in Dubai, I always like the villas, better than apartments. Yeah, they're returning good returns. But from a perspective in terms of doing business, Dubai is one of the best.
Really?
You can open up a bank account.
Yeah.
You don't need to have citizenship. A lot of people are now doing, digital marketing. They have their team over there.
That's
so
right.
they can transfer like an expense as long as it's a proper rate.
Proper business, yeah.
In terms of, if you're paying the equivalent, say, 10 grand a month here or 20, it's hard to put a price on digital marketing, which is a good one. But you can't go overboard. So it's $1 million a month. It's hard to justify.
Yeah.
So you can actually do that. And at the same time, there's no tax in Dubai as long as you've got in the free economic zone. So I have an office in the free economic zone. My clients have their registered address there, so they come under that platform as well.
Right.
In terms of Hong Kong, got an office there as well. A bit harder to get that facility. You need to have a local director, which we facilitate as well. In terms
You've
of
got partnerships in Hong Kong that can assist
exactly,
with that.
Yeah, we can put a local director on there, nominee director. You still have control, and there are other ways we can minimise your tax.
Yep.
Legally, that is,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
But a lot of people are buying property in Dubai, and I sometimes question that. Don't do it just for the tax reasons. Is it going to give you more growth than what Australia will? Yes, they are growing. What's the risk factors? There's a lot of things to consider.
It's interesting when I hear the growth because you think the supply and demand, the supply is everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
And is there demand for it? But
a lot of people are moving there.
They're having these huge expos and hotels and.
Well, look, I'll give you a good example. The UK have got these now draconian laws that have come in. So a lot of multi-millionaires are moving out of the UK and moving to places like Dubai.
Yep.
It's the UK. I don't know why they're doing a lot of these things, but it's not bringing in or it's not keeping a lot of their high net worth individuals. A lot of them are moving out, and statistics show that a lot are moving out.
Are they also going to Europe and to other zones and
in the other
buying
zones.
up on these?
But I'm still a big fan of Dubai in terms of their banking system stable.
Okay.
Remember Cyprus used to be the big one. What happened to the banks in Cyprus? They went under.
Yeah.
So it's from a longevity perspective, the Dubai system has shown that it can be trusted.
That's really interesting because I was always fraught with a little bit of danger and nervousness around something I don't know about, and I haven't really researched it. But you see a lot of people asking me questions about it. I'm like, hey, you're going to have to do your research because
correct,
not something I know a lot about at all.
Look, setting it up, I pretty much do that. I probably set up a company a week in Dubai.
Wow.
But in terms of people investing property, I don't give any advice in that obviously space. I'm not comfortable in it.
Yeah.
It's something that you need to go over there and see for yourself. You can't just take someone's word for it. You really got to go over there, ask the right questions. And I've got contacts over there that can help them and guide them. But ultimately, it's their decision.
Yeah.
If they want to make that leap, they make it without any influence. But I can make sure they get the right advice. They don't go down the wrong path.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. You remember the days of Queensland when they used to fly you, you get a free flight. You don't realise you're paying 200 grand for something that's worth 100.
Yeah, correct. And you get a nice lunch, pick up on the bus and drop you back home. Yeah.
Exactly.
I know. Exactly. Interesting the things we used to do.
Correct.
And in terms of, let's talk about our favourite friends, the ATO, who may be listening. Welcome. What are you seeing around the tightening? So there's always a lot of chatter around housing policy. We talked about the negative gearing and Labor letting that one lax, but there's always discussions, and there seems to be a little bit of tightening around some legislation from the ATO. What are your thoughts on that? Where do you see that heading?
Look, I'm not a big fan of the ATO. And I was very pleased to see, I think it was Coca-Cola or Pepsi took the ATO to the High Court.
Right.
You know how they do transfer pricing. the ATO said, no, we're not allowing that. It's a royalty. You need to withhold 10%. I said, it's not a royalty. We've got our bottling factories over there, our formulas that we manufacture there. We pay for that, and we're paying for it at normal prices. The ATO said, no, you got to withhold 10% on those payments. So I'm so glad that they took them to the High Court and the ATO lost. I'm always happy when the ATO lose.
Yeah.
So they lost the case. Game over. You can't get any higher than the High Court.
Yep.
Unless the government changes legislation, which I don't think they will, because you're then discouraging multinationals to invest. And the big talking point, as you know, is this superannuation, paying tax on unrealised gains. Now, I think I think there's something coming. It's super, yes. Up to 3 million, yes. Per person, yes. So it doesn't affect everyone. I think the biggest problem, yes, it's a problem in property. And the way it works is if your property goes up, you've got to pay that tax bill, even though you haven't sold it. So you don't have the cash to pay for it. And then next year, if a property goes down, you don't get that money back as a refund, you get a credit. To me, it's like, who writes these things? Are these a bunch of bureaucrats that never had a job in the real world?
That's normally the case.
Exactly. But what's more concerning is a lot of super funds are investing in speculative industries because it's money that, I've got to put it in, doesn't hurt me. So what happens if you put 500,000 into this startup and then it becomes worth, and it has happened, 50 mil.
Yep.
It has happened in certain situations. How the hell are you going to pay for that? You've got to sell your shares, but they're not listed yet. So how do you come up with that tax bill? You can't sell it. That, because it hasn't happened, it's not an issue at the moment.
Correct.
But
it will.
It will. So they're not thinking a lot, and they're not encouraging, we need people to invest in these spec industries, these startups. And now if you can't do it through your super fund, you're not going to do it outside of super.
Yeah.
You don't have that discretionary money.
Yeah.
You got to withdraw it out of your homeland, then pay interest on it, which you don't want to do. So these are the things that, and it's starting, as you heard, should the Australian family home now be taxed? So it's talking about that.
Yeah.
Who's got the guts to do that? No one's going to win that election.
No.
So they can talk about it as much as they want. Who's got the guts to bring that at the election table? They will not win. They will get wiped out.
Yeah.
So they are talking about it. Is that a red herring in terms of something else? Because, they try and scare people.
Yeah, I think it's good to put it out there now when you're so far away from the next election, and then
I think it's something else.
Let someone's bringing it up in Parliament. Let them get their 5 minutes of fame, and then we'll smack it down because we just need to win an election.
Exactly. Now, I think it's probably a red herring for something else. I think it's a red herring in terms of people that hold investment properties.
Yep.
Reintroducing what they're doing in super outside of super. Because they do this in other countries like the UK and whatnot.
Right.
So if you have an investment property, if it goes up in value, they'll make you pay tax on it. It's not as bad as a family home, but will they win an election on that? It's hard to say because Australians love property. I think we're the only country in the world that is so invested in property. And it's not just high net worth individuals, it's the average punter.
Yep. They're all our clients. It's the average mum and dad. Yeah.
Average mum and dad. So it's not Liberal voters. It's not just Labor voters. Whoever goes to the election will not win that election.
Yeah.
So they are talking about it. And I think the Labor Party got away with it with the super because it's in super and it's the 3 million thing. But as more and more people get up there.
People won't affect me. There's so few people who are going to be affected.
Exactly.
It's only the rich people.
But it's not indexed.
Yeah.
So eventually you could be in that category. So it could be an election issue come down the track.
Down the track, yeah.
Exactly.
Good segue into super. So probably one of the two trends I've seen in the last, let's say 2 years. Rent vestors, which we've always been a big proponent of that, and we've been pro on if you can't, people want to live where they want to live.
Correct.
And invest outside of their backyard, so to speak. Because the old days, mum and dad will say, "You buy here, son. That's where we grew up. It's a good place. Buy next door. Buy the land." People can't afford to do that anymore and buy next door to their mum and dad because they paid $30,000 or $40,000 for their home, and that's now worth $2 million.
Exactly.
So we've seen that being a big trend for us, and self-managed super funds, another big investment channel for us. We've seen a lot of people coming to us to help them do that. Get a lot of referrals from our accounting and planning partners. What's your thoughts around that? You're setting up, I assume, no doubt, a lot of these structures.
Once again, I'd probably set up 1 or 2 a week, SMSFs. When it comes to property, they are ultimately the best structure.
Yep.
Now, yes, you've got the 3 million cap, but that's only if you go into pension phase. So, obviously, if you retire and you're living off the rental income and whatnot, it doesn't trigger until you come into pension phase.
Yep.
If you're in accumulation phase, it's not in play.
Yeah.
So, if you buy, most people really only got 1 rental property in their super fund.
Correct.
Maybe 2. But with 2 people, that's a $6 million threshold, and it's a husband and wife team. So they're under that 3 million cap.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. Look, capital gains in the super fund is 10% because of the discount that you get. People don't mind paying 10% tax. It's a pretty good rate.
Pretty good rate. Yeah.
Exactly. And the fact that you can, the repayments can come out of your super contributions from your employer.
Yep.
You're basically buying a property without having to change your lifestyle. Because when you do buy a property outside of super, you got to think, can we take that holiday? Can we do this? But when it's in super, you've got the rental income plus the employer contributions at 12%. It services itself.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You can take that holiday. You can do what you need to do.
Yeah.
You just need to have a bigger deposit at 20% and whatnot.
Restrictions on what you can buy.
Yeah,
and so on. Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, so people talk about house and land packages, but then it's
you
tricky
can't
to do that with
yes.
Single contracts.
Exactly. So it does work. It's a great structure in terms of buying property, in my opinion.
And talking about structures, so quite often we're getting, like I said, 75% of our clients have 2 or more properties. And so now they're getting to that 2 to 3 to 4. What do you think? What do you, I mean, obviously this is just top line advice. You don't know any circumstances here, but when people get to that 2 to 3 to 4 stage, is that the time they could start considering some trust or
Yes.
considering that and moving away from their personal names as they get bigger?
Correct. So we need to factor in land tax as well. What state is it in? If they've already exhausted the land tax, you're going to pay it anyway.
Yeah.
So we might as well put it into a family trust.
Yeah.
We can't avoid the land tax, even if it's in my name or the wife's name. We've exhausted those thresholds.
Yep.
Now is the time to do the family trust in New South Wales in particular.
And also assist with borrowing capacity as well, right? If they've topped out.
Exactly.
In their personal names.
That's another thing you've got to consider as well. Borrowing capacity. I really want to get into this property. If I got to put it into an entity name, and it's going to cost me more in land tax, you really got to do a cost benefit analysis. The land tax versus the capital growth I'm going to make on this property. If it outweighs it and it gives you access to a property, then you do it. If you've got to pay additional tax, so be it. The whole aim is to get into that property, and statistics show that they sort of double every 10 to so many years.
Yep.
And you can't save that money.
No.
No one can save that money.
The great compounding growth of it as well, right? If you're buying good. I mean, that's probably one of the things we've seen, right, since COVID. We've been around and seen the property market have some great highs, and we've also seen some lows. I've had property in Sydney that hasn't grown in 5 or 6 years.
Exactly.
But no one's seen that post-COVID.
No.
And that's when we've seen the great advent of huge buyers agents, a lot of people investing in money. Have only seen this boom market, so to speak, in most cities in Australia.
Exactly. I mean, Sydney was a market where you can close your eyes and invest anywhere and you're going to get growth. These days, does that work? Probably not.
So if you look at the 40-year data of 40 years of the average growth in Australia, of every city, there's hardly 0.1% separating the top 5 cities.
Exactly.
So that furphy again of Sydney being the number 1 place to invest doesn't relate in data. Data doesn't suggest that.
Correct. And you're right. It's those days of just buying in Sydney, no one's really got the financial capacity to do that anymore.
Yeah. What did we hit yesterday? Well, 1.5, 1.7, 1.5, 1.7.
And then what, you say to yourself, do I buy a unit? I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of units, right?
No.
Or do I buy a house in Brisbane? You'd obviously take the house in Brisbane, right? I mean, depending, variables involved. But if apples and apples in terms of things, you'd go for the house.
Yeah.
Because the growth is in the land. not in the building.
Well, particularly it's off the plan, right? We just keep hearing these stories and, the builders going bust and
Quality,
running away and
waterproofing issues.
Waterproofing, not getting OCs.
Yeah, correct.
It's very nerve-wracking. I wouldn't want to be selling those to people, but obviously someone has to sell it.
Exactly.
And then you got the strata fees.
Yeah.
And then you've got, on top of that, what happens if there's leaks? Like you said, waterproofing issues, and who's got to pay for that? The strata.
Yeah. And if there's no money in there, then you got to do a special contribution.
Levies and,
Can everyone afford it? There's delay issues. There's a lot of variables to think about.
But it's understandable, right? It's like, what else am I going to buy? I want to live in Sydney. I don't want to live in Melbourne. I don't want to live in Brisbane. I can't afford a house. I'm going to buy an apartment. Yeah, but don't do that because of these reasons.
Yeah.
But it's very tough, And so we try to say, well, maybe look at more boutique complexes or older styles.
Yeah,
smaller
older
ones,
style, exactly. You don't want
potentially. But obviously people want to live in nicer, newer areas. And now we've got the express building codes around the railway lines and metro lines. We're seeing all these towers pop up everywhere.
Correct.
Someone's going to live in them.
Look, eventually there's certain areas where banks are very reluctant to lend.
I saw that happen to someone in Parramatta the other day. They were buying a unit in Parramatta and last minute it got rejected.
Yeah. Parramatta, Zetland's another one.
Yes. All the big apartment meccas,
Walleye Creek.
Yep.
Another one. Obviously so much there. The building quality is not there. There's a lot of, you've got to look at, now we've got this building commissioner, thank goodness, and he's identified who the private certifiers were.
Yeah.
That allow these in and let the banks know. So a lot of these high rises you don't see getting built anymore because they've got to do it properly. Their margins get reduced.
Yeah.
I can tell you in Liverpool, there is no high rises anymore.
No?
No. Because you've got to build this thing properly and it doesn't make economic sense.
Yeah.
You might be able to, in the old days, you might be able to build it for 250. Now it's gone to 300 because the waterproofing is really where the key is. And
they can't cut those corners, right?
They can't cut those corners. It doesn't make economic sense. There's not many high rises in the CBD of Liverpool anymore.
I've heard massive stories around that. Friends who supply building companies, and so they'd give them the top line.
Yes.
And they get everything signed off, and then they return it all
and
send us the cheap stuff.
And
that's how they get it and build it at the lower pricing.
Wow.
And so these stories because I hear these stories through friends, you kind of get pretty nervous, and that's why we don't touch a lot of that.
Exactly.
Established properties, no issues.
Units, even new ones. You got home warranty insurance. I think it was Harry Triggerbuff that lobbied the government to exempt high rises over 3 stories from home warranty insurance. It was a talking point, I do remember. And through his lobbying efforts, he thought, it's going to cost me more per unit. He used his lobbying power. And I could, to this day, you think to yourself, how is it you can't get home warranty on a unit? You should be able to.
Yep.
They need to change the laws. And this is where politics comes into play, lobbying versus what's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And they are putting pressure on, Liverpool, for example.
Yep.
You got to build so many dwellings per year, but they don't give us infrastructure.
Yeah.
So you build we've got to allow more buildings into the area, but you've still got the same size hospital. Liverpool came out as one of the worst hospitals in the state.
Right.
Add another 10,000 residents to there. How do you expect them to perform? Still the same road.
Yes.
You're not building another lane.
They're not going to do that.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's an interesting, with population growth and that we're encouraging that. And, one of the things we see quite often is, everyone claps their hands, gets so excited. The government's got a new first home buyers grant. Let's say it's 30,000 or 20,000 extra, whatever it's going to be. And that just goes straight to the developer.
Exactly.
They end up I remember ringing one day, a builder, and they're out at the pub, and what's going on? Oh, we just made an extra 20 grand per deal.
Yeah,
I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, the government.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, now I get it. So that goes straight
100%.
so that property has gone up $20,000, but it's great for votes because people think that they've just got $20,000 extra in their wallet. But
I'm not a fan of that. I like the policy that they've got, the 2% deposits where they'll guarantee it for essential service workers like police, nurses. I like that.
Yeah.
Because the government gets a stake in the property.
Yeah.
And the taxpayer also makes money through the journey of capital growth. And that gives people an ability to enter the market. For example, if you're a nurse and you work out of Campbelltown, normally you can't afford the deposit. So now through this scheme, it allows you to get in there.
Yeah.
And developers aren't going to make any more money because it's just the deposit issue.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. Little risk to the taxpayer.
That's right.
Because the property, long term and whatnot. And it helps essential services people to be able to live close to where they work.
Interesting, mate. We could talk for a long time about all sorts of different things.
Exactly.
I get so many questions every day, and I'll have to pass them on to you now. But if you had one golden rule to pass on to an investor, what's something that they should really consider as they enter, let's say, for a first-time property investor? What's one golden rule they should think of from an accounting finance perspective?
Get the advice. I mean, you're going to spend $1 million on something and you don't get the advice on what structure to put it in. And I always ask the question, why didn't you come and see me? You're spending $1 million, spend $1,000 on advice. The structure is the key because you make the wrong decision. It's very expensive to untangle that decision.
Correct. Yeah.
So get the advice, work out the structure. The rest is easy.
Well, we always say build up your team.
Correct.
And the first people on your team has to be an accountant.
100%.
If it's a property investment side, obviously a property savvy accountant, potentially a financial planner, some legal side of things, whether it's conveyancers, solicitors, lawyers. You might want a property person on there, a real estate agent, and also potentially a buyer's agent to help you set that strategy and buy for you. But we always say build your team first, get that advice, and then come back to us, and then we'll start setting the strategy up to look at what property looks like, because there's no use going the other way around.
Yeah. Most people, they leave out the accountant. They get the buyer's agents, they find the property, they get the solicitor to do the conveyancing, but then they miss the essential. What name goes on that contract? Most people don't go to the accountant, but we push that as the 1% accountants. We play in the property space. All my clients come to me, no matter what decision they make.
That's one of the things when we onboard, you need to get that sorted.
100%.
So, we'll go and start looking for your properties.
Exactly.
But you need to get that sorted because...
Or the broker as well. They'll go to the broker for the loan, but they forget the accountant.
So we need to get them to remember the accountant.
Exactly.
Right. Good one. You need to get maybe some more incentives, a bit more exciting. Like you said, you get a bit bored at these accounting practices.
100%.
Maybe you need to set up a new accounting community.
100%.
And make it far more exciting for people to come and talk to you.
Yes.
Because otherwise all we come to you is for our tax returns, right?
That's going to be a difficult one.
I think that's a challenge. You've done a lot.
Exactly.
I think that one might beat you.
Mate,
right. Thanks very much, Peter. It's really great to have you on.
Thank you for the invitation.
Great to meet you. And we'll put some information in the show notes for people to get in touch with you, because I know you've got a lot more knowledge to share.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed the show, it'd mean a lot if you could take a moment to rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. The Invest Smarter, Grow Faster podcast provides general information and commentary about property, finance, and investing. It does not constitute financial, legal, tax, or investment advice tailored to your personal circumstances. Before making any financial decisions, you should seek professional advice from a qualified advisor. While we aim for accuracy and quality, we cannot guarantee all information is complete, up to date, or free from errors. Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future results. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time.